good to know about it. It could be a good secret recipe. Yeah.
I've been banging on about it for ages. I keep getting pushed from one place to another.
All right, any moment we'll be in line and then we can begin.
I think so.
It's the YouTube.
Just working with some IT stuff, folks. Seems to be a running theme, but we only do what we can do.
It's be about 30 seconds. Was that YouTube thing off before? Or was
Yeah, I'm not sure this went live and it just replied, so I'll just YouTube.
Okay, okay. No, that should be. I've been talking and I can't hear myself coming back.
Oh, okay.
It takes about 30 seconds.
All right. So that was what you were testing. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we're pretty good. We think we're okay. If we start hearing feedback or ourselves talking over the microphone, we might have to do something. But other than that, welcome to everybody here. Let's start the day with the karakia. That should come up on the screen, and I'm happy to lead us through that. Coming. Thank you. All right. Pātaka te hau ki te uru. Pātaka te hau ki te tōna. Ia mā kine ki uta. Ia mā tata ki tō. E hi aki ane te atakura. E tiu, e huka, e hohu. Te he, Māori ora. Kia ora. Thanks, everybody.
Apologies from Nigel.
Okay, Nigel's moving out. Right. Just to let everybody know, we are live streaming today. Welcome to the people who are watching us on what's it called?
Zoom.
YouTube, Zoom, those things.
Disney
Yep,
Plus.
Disney Plus and Netflix. Thanks for joining us on those platforms. And any staff member who may be joining us via Zoom as well. We'll start off with the apologies. We've got Howard who's coming online with us, and Nigel apologises he's moving house today in Akaroa. Looks like he's got a good day for it. So that's great. As always, if there's any declarations of interest by elected members, let me know, or if it comes up in the moment as well, please make that known so we can be as transparent as possible.
I have one. Yes, of being a member of the Port Levy Residents Association.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Levy residents. Okay. Confirmation of previous minutes. We'll take those as read. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Unless there's any questions. Yep. Gillian's happy to move and Kathy's happy to second. Thanks, team. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thanks very much. I'd like to take just a quick moment of silence. We've had we'd like to acknowledge a couple of people in Akaroa who have recently passed. Unfortunately, we've got Mahia Whatauro Tainui from Okuti, obviously news there.
From
Onuku, sorry, and Trevor Gilbert as well. So if we can just have a moment of silence to honour those people. Okay, Thank you, everybody. Public forums, future problem solving international conference. Got Abby. Is Abby here? Yeah, come on up. We're very friendly. Come on up to the front. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Pātaka, my name is Abby. I'm a Year 13 student at Cashmere High School and I live in Diamond Harbour. So back in June, I applied and was granted some money from you, which contributed to my trip to the Future Problem Solving International Conference in the United States. So for those that don't know, Future Problem Solving is an academic extension program targeted towards children who have a high skill in the literacy sphere. It's a six-step structured process that enhances critical and logical thinking. I was able to qualify to go to the United States as I placed fourth with my Cashmere High School team at the Nationals in 2023. So we began our trip in New York City. We flew Auckland to New York. We obviously did classic experiences in New York. We went up the Empire State Building and Times Square. We also were lucky enough to go out to Princeton University and visit a lovely girl named Sophie Pye, who is from Christchurch. We also had a seminar with Columbia University air quality professors. This was a great opportunity as our Future Problem Solving International topic was on air quality. We also visited the UN and we had an opportunity to sit down with the New Zealand permanent missionaries to the United Nations, which was an incredibly inspiring experience and yeah, very eye-opening. Then we travelled to
Sometimes it's a bit sticky, but we'll get the team here to work on that.
Awesome. Then we travelled to Indiana University where our competition was held. We spent 5 days at IU. It's an incredible campus. It's 10 kilometres squared. Amazing, incredible university. I competed in the multi-affiliate global issues competition where you're randomly placed in a team with 3 other people from Foster Grove. I actually ended up in a team of 3 because we didn't have enough competitors, and I was placed with a boy from Florida and a girl from California. We managed to place 3rd out of 20 other teams. There is a variety of countries present at the IC, from Singapore, Australia, United States, France, Spain, you name it, it's probably there. Outside of the competition, we got to spend time exploring, again, the incredible and massive campus. That morning there was particularly special for me because I went for a swim in the IU pool with the IU Indiana University Division 1 swimming team training right next to me, which was very, very cool. Awesome. So after that, we headed up to Chicago where it was more just a recovery day from IC and all the energy that we had exerted. Chicago is a beautiful city, amazing architecture, and we ate lots of cake and pizza to celebrate our success. So thank you all to the board. This was an incredible experience and I wouldn't have been able to go without your support. I had such a brilliant time and it was an eye-opening opportunity to potentially go into university in the States, work at the United Nations and diplomacy as well. So from my learnings from the trip, I am going to continue to deliver classroom sessions of future problem solving at Cashmere to younger students. I have completed a course to become an evaluator for Future Problem Solving New Zealand, which is when you mark other people's booklets. And then I'm currently writing a how to teach guide for beginner future problem solving teachers, aiming to answer any questions and provide clarity to people who are learning how to teach future problem solving. Again, I'm so appreciative to the board for this. I've grown again from this opportunity and I, again, am so, so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic presentation. Obviously, it sounds so exciting. I wish I could do that. Anyway, I think we've got time for one question. Is that okay? I'd love to ask you a question. What was your main takeaway from the whole experience?
I think it was probably the connection that I made.
Yeah.
But I'm getting to speak to Sophie Pye at Princeton, having that's actually a reality for New Zealanders. We can go and be at the levels of those top Ivy League universities in the States. Meeting the diplomats to New Zealand, the representatives, that's incredible. And they're kind of in my email addresses now, they know who I am. That's an incredible connection to have moving forward in my life. And then also just the other school age people that we met at Indiana. Met some really good people from Illinois, from Massachusetts and Connecticut, and we even actually have a group chat with each other now. So it's
Fantastic.
still staying connected.
So good. Yeah, last question from
If I may, thank you. So wonderful for you to come back and actually tell us about what you've been doing, and it's really so impressive. How did you get involved in it?
Future Problem Solving ran at Diamond Harbour School, where I went from year 1 to year 8. And our coach was Sarah Nichols. And for Future Problem Solving, teachers kind of run a series of sort of selection tests. And I was good enough, I guess, to be selected for that. So one of the questions on the test is, for example, would be describe a table. So some people would consider that logically and literally as in a table in the corner. But what about data tables? Things like that.
Right.
Statistics, those sorts of tables. So it's kind of
That's my kind of table.
They pick you based off your kind of just your world perspective and how your brain kind of operates. And there is a place for future problem solving in everybody, for everyone. But that's just how I got into it. Got selected at primary school and absolutely love it, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. It teaches kids critical and logical thinking beyond any sort of other place in the New Zealand curriculum. So I'm pretty passionate about future problem solving, and I'd love to see it continue at Diamond Harbour and also at Catching.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You're awesome.
Wow.
Good stuff. Okay. Next we've got Jenny Beerley, and I know Jenny's got many hats today. She's talking to us on behalf of Cass Bay Residents Association on the update of Summer with Your Neighbours events. Thank you.
I'd have to say that it's going to be really hard act. So Cass Bay currently has a growing population of about 500 people. There's been a residents association which has run social events since the early days of the settlement in 1965. We have a Facebook page and regular email and newsletters. We run social events, but we also had a popular play group in Steadfast for over 8 years. We run 4 social events a year. Funding, thank you, from you, or some from our neighbours, enables us to provide very popular events which help everyone get to know each other. Our beach party is where children enjoy dressing up in fancy dress, scavenger hunts, and building and racing rafts. Brody, a little boy here, he spends all year designing his rafts, and he did win prizes. And it ends with a tasty barbecue at the party. The Halloween party starts with a lolly scramble and trick-or-treating around Cass Bay, then a fancy dress competition, games and barbecue, which is an important part of the local socialising, and new people getting to know everyone, and includes people from Forsyth Bay and Littleton, and really further afield. Our annual morning tea is very popular with our older residents who enjoy catching up with each other who have lived in Cass Bay for decades. We also have a usual potluck dinner, but can't currently do this due to lack of venue. We've held information sessions on subjects like pest-free control and from SPENS, the police and the civil defence. Cass Bay community has been planting natives and developing tracks for over 30 years. And we've recently developed a replacement track to Pony Point, as well as a new track through Steadfast to the Summit Road, which is proving very popular with lots of people. On planting days, we have up to 50 people come to help us. Since 2020, 10,000 trees have been planted as part of the Pātaka Healthy Harbour initiative to reduce sedimentation and bring back biodiversity to our area. The barbecues, which you also have very kindly helped, often offer to warm up our volunteers, because we always plant in the winter when it's very cold, and of course gives them some well-deserved nourishment. It's also a time when everybody catches up with others and makes new friends. Volunteers from 8 months to 80 years, plus furry friends, continue to look after the plants and reserves all around the year, all through the year, watering, weeding, trapping, weed eating, and working with other organisations on conservation. Community are also active in backyard trapping as part of pest-free Hills, and we also have several volunteers with the WAP program trapping on our reserves. After the terror attack on the 15th of March 2019, a local 10-year-old collected money to buy 51 native trees in memory of his 14-year-old friend who was a victim who come from Corsair Bay. A tranquil place at Pony Point was chosen, and the Reserves Committee and Rangers have worked with the Muslim community ever since to continue to develop this area, and recently installed a plaque officially commemorating the spot. It's not actually the spot. It's currently being slightly altered. We're now setting up the Cass Bay Emergency Hub so that the community can be self-sufficient for up to 7 days if cut off in a major event. We have been cut off by rockfalls, landslides, and 3 times by fire in the past. That's a reality for us. A database of residents' details, needs, skills, and resources has already been developed, and soon volunteers will be trained to act in support and organisational roles, and they'll be trained by Civil Defence. Our aspiration for a community centre is essential for us to continue to enjoy and develop all these activities and more within our bay. We urgently need a transition solution, as arranging meetings outside the bay has been unsuccessful, with 2 meetings not having a quorum. Possible solution might be using the one building that doesn't have asbestos at the moment.
Just to let you know,
This will ensure we can be a connected, resilient community that supports all our residents well.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate your time.
No questions?
No, unfortunately. Next we have got, I'm on the wrong page. Here we go. Know Your Place, Environment and Art. We've got Holly and Sarah. Come on up. I should have said this at the start. When we have that little ding dong, that's your time is up. So I can, just, you know, that's I can give you a minute warning if you like. Okay.
Yeah, I'll put in a box in there.
The Northcoast House Week.
Hi.
Tēnā rā, koutou katoa, ko Holly Cunningham, tōku ingoa, ko Sarah Emilia, tēnei, te rawe hoki kia kōrero, kia koutou, tēnei rā. So thanks for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. We wanted to talk to you about a project that we've developed for the community here, and well, in its wider context as part of a wider project for New Zealand that we're really excited about, and that we hope you'll be really excited about too. So Know Your Place, Environment and Art is an art exhibition coming up in November, 20th of November, it officially starts. In its wider context, we developed this for a project for Manaaki Whenua, and they have got a 5-year project, MBIE research project, that they're looking at how to shift towards more pro-environmental land use. And so there's 4 work streams within that. One of them is banking and finance, one of them is narratives, one of them is policy intervention, and the other one is agents of change. We're working within the agents of change space. There is a whole lot of case studies going on about the things that are agents of change. One of those, and our specialty being artists, so how artists can influence pro-environmental change. And so the project that we were commissioned to do 2 projects that they can collect some research and data on. And there's been so much amazing energy and involvement from this community that we've actually extended it to 6 total projects. Yeah, so
Can you scroll us? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great. So we'll just go to the next page. So this is a festival where what we've looked at doing is partnering environmental research and science initiatives happening within Whakaraukau with an artist's practice as a way to represent that data and that environmental information in a way that's more engaging for people to know what's actually happening in their area. So just to give you an example, we've got 6 projects happening across 2 weeks. First one here is, this is the Subaquatic Symphony. So for 2 weeks, we're going to activate the local swimming pool here. And that is looking at all the underwater marine acoustic reporting and research that was done here in Port on dolphin and mammal life, and particularly when the repiling was done. And those recordings include everything from the sound of seaweed synthesizing, krill talking to each other. So we've partnered that acoustic research from LPC with a local sound artist, and she's written an underwater symphony with all those recordings. And so that's going to play through underwater speakers in the swimming pool for 2 weeks at set times so that people can come and get a sense of what their marine environment actually sounds like. And this is our first project because it's really about getting a sensory awareness first, with the bigger vision being how we can foster guardianship of these local spaces. The second one, thank you very much. So Whakaraupo Fauna is a research project by Dr. Joyce Yeager, and she studies micromarine invertebrates in the inner harbour here and also in the outer harbour. And she's found some really interesting research and correlations between those species in the inner harbour and how they're responding to land runoff, pollution, etc., and those creatures in the outer harbour and the differences between them now. So these are tiny creatures. They're photographed and filmed every week. These are going to be presented large-scale projections in the wall store down at Tiana Marina. And it's a way for people to understand the creatures they actually can't see in their local environment, but that are phenomenal barometers for the harbour health. Lily Duval, who's Critter of the Week on RNZ, an insect specialist, she's the artist partnering with that and is illustrating these 2. Go to the next one.
You got 1 more minute left.
So
it goes quick, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's a bit of a taster. We've got a large penguin project running at Naval Point at the moment, which will be a series of 100 penguins installed around the foreshore, fostering how we can include those ecosystems better in our thinking. Mm-hmm. So essentially, this started as 2 projects, but the community response has been so overwhelming. We've got so many partners involved now that we've extended it out to 6 projects running over 2 weeks. So we're looking for some support to help make that happen in November, in addition to the Manaaki Whenua support that we've received. Wow. So we should have done a slideshow. Was this shared prior? So yeah, cool, great. That's not all.
No, yeah, we have a chance to absorb it as well.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of it.
Thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. Good luck. It looks very exciting. Yeah, lots of work. Good luck. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll just go back to this letter. We've got a letter here from Asif. Let's find it. So just to note that we will table a letter that you have all received in regards to a motion to the Banks Peninsula Community Board, Akara Voices for Peace group. So that there will then be sent to the CE, and then we'll just add that as late correspondence. I think that's all they need to do to make sure that that's all official. Is that right? I need to have that. Yeah, okay. So Asif was a mover and a seconder, please. Luana, all those in favour? Against, that's carried. Thank you. That was a little bit of a late one there, but we managed to get it in. No deputations by appointment. Presentations of petition. Reserve committee meeting minutes. Linda, come on up. And we've also got Colin Jacker on Zoom as well, if we've got any questions in regards to those minutes.
Good morning. We have the minutes of 6 reserve committees for you to accept today. Points of interest include the Littleton Reserves. They're pleased that a memorial seat in honour of Gary Broker, who was the initial chair of the Reserve Committee, a town clerk, and did a lot of work on the Uruma Reserve, is finally ready to be installed. This was approved by the board many years ago, so they're very pleased to get that done. Pigeon Bay, it was confirmed that a local resident, Helen Figg, has agreed to be part of the Management Structure Strategic Plan Working Group. You may recall this appointment was approved by the board at your August meeting, so she accepted during their 6th of August meeting. I need to let you know that at your October meeting, we will be asking the board for an extension for the Pigeon Bay Reserve Committee to meet their special condition, as the process is a bit more complicated. There's been quite a bit of discussion going on there, and staff will now work on a report to the board around options regarding the annual campground sites at both Pigeon Bay and Duvershell campgrounds. This needs to be resolved before any consideration is given to other management options by a separate legal entity for the Pigeon Bay campground. The report about annual campground sites will follow community consultation, and the community will have an opportunity to present deputations for the board to consider when you make your recommendations to council. Once results are known about annual campground sites, then a community consultation process can begin about the Pigeon Bay Reserve Committee forming a legal entity to manage the campground. Are there any questions about Pigeon Bay minutes in particular?
No, that makes all good sense.
No, good. Moving on to Stanley Park, you'll note that there are track changes afoot for Stanley Park, and a report will be coming to the board for approval soon. And you'll see an additional resolution for the board to approve the appointment of Charles de Lambert to the Stanley Park Reserve Committee per the 22 August minutes. Charles is actively involved with trapping in Stanley Park and other areas through the pest-free Banks Peninsula trapping program. Cass Bay Reserve Committee were keen to present their triennial plan to the board at this meeting. However, Parks have asked to have some further input into that first and to get the reserve schedule right before they bring that to the board. So this will come to you at a later date. O'Kane's Bay are working hard to eradicate pine trees and other weeds to make way for native plantings as per their landscape plan. And Allendale, you'll see an additional resolution in this report to approve the appointment of Kerry Turner and Reg Matthews to the Allendale Reserve Committee. Thank you.
That's great. Lots happening there, as always, but you know, it's lovely to hear those points, especially. And as well as our representatives who go to these Reserve Committee meetings, hopefully we'll be across most of the important stuff that's happening there. Okay. I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder?
We're going to have time for any questions?
Yes, if you like. Sorry, I kind of rambled a little bit there to see if anybody had anything that they wanted to bring up, but yeah.
I mean, if that's, I mean, with your leave, that's all right. Okay. Just on the Littleton Reserves Committee, what's the quorum for that committee?
I don't have that information at my fingertips at the moment, but I can find out. The quorum is.
Because I know there was only 5 at the August meeting. It's just a process thing, and I'm just curious because does that mean there are only 9 on the committee? I thought, because as I understood it, I thought that they would be co-opting people onto the committee over time, and I'm just wondering. I mean, if 5 is the quorum, they're kind of.
A quorum is, if it's an even number of members, it's half the number of members. If it's an odd number of members, it's the majority. So I can't tell you off the top of my head how many members there are currently in the Littleton Reserves Committee. So I would have to get back to you about whether that was a quorum or not.
I don't think they got the full 12
Right,
because they had they held some positions over and filled some of them, but not all of them. So I
Right.
suspect they've got 11, they might have 11, either 10 or 11, which makes, if it's 10, the 5's good. If it's 11, then it's not a quorum.
well, I'm just looking at here because there's 5 at the meeting, 3 apologies and 1 absent, which would make 9.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, well, then it's only 5 is the quorum then.
right.
Perfect.
So what is there? Have they just not had any interest for additional members, or?
I don't know, I'm not up.
There was no mention in their minutes about that.
Okay, no, that's cool. Just for my own information. Just on the Allendale one. So I'm going back to April last year.
Linda's been chasing up banana.
Oh yeah, okay, that's cool. Just
Catching up.
right. Sweet as. Is there some kind of how long is there any kind of rule about that, non-standing orders and that sort of stuff in terms of getting minutes to the board?
Their terms of reference do give them 7 days after a meeting to get minutes to the board, but it's sometimes very difficult to get them from them.
That's so good. Because there's quite a lot going on there. I just anyway, we've had deputations and stuff. No, that's so good. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
All good. Okay, so any other questions there? We're ready to move on to motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second it. You.
Okay, I moved it, seconded it, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Thank you. Thanks for those questions, Karen. Okay,
Just me being nosy, really.
no, good process. Akaroa Museum Advisory Committee meeting minutes.
So these are the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of August. At this meeting, the committee endorsed 2 internal policies, the Akaroa Museum Acquisitions and Disposals Policy and the Akaroa Museum Research and Access Policy. These aren't official council policies. They are just more like guidelines for museums, so they don't need to come to the board for endorsement.
Okay.
Members also expressed concern about the lack of interest from younger people in becoming involved with local committees and the need to encourage the younger generation to get involved with a range of activities within our community.
Yes,
That's for the
noted, and I'd probably say that's in general, wouldn't it be, you know, across all committees and all volunteer places and spaces. That is a good question that we probably need to think about and try and figure out, like Abby, perfect example of bringing her here and hearing from her experiences and just having that interaction, how we can do that more as a community board. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Any questions there from the team here on the table for Akaroa Museum Advisory Committee minutes? Oh, okay. Can I have a mover for that? Luana, a seconder? Gillian? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
There is not enough time in the day to talk about why young people don't get involved in these things.
But we can look at it from our point of view as the community board, you know, making sure we invite young people to contribute. I mean, yeah, just keep that sort of at the top of our what we can do, our delegations. All right, staff reports. Oh, yeah, that's up. Hey. I was like, who's up there? Oh, it's my name. Okay, so fantastic. You may have received, or you would have seen, I need to find the page for this. So page 65, right now. Yeah. Page 65. Not page 65 on my thing.
It is 70, I think. 69, 66.
Okay,
Yeah. 66.
thank you. 6. 3, sorry, team, I'll get there. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, the purpose of the report is to say, hey, it's annual plan time of year again, and to get our little thinking brains, or our big thinking brains, I shouldn't say the little, they're big, into the idea of, right, moving forward, what are some of the priorities and sort of the visions and projects that we have been doing, and have a little look at the resources that have been put together. So we've got the implementation plan and champions, which you'll see on page 71 there. And also, I won't go into those because Linda can take us through what they're actually about. And then also we've got sort of the progress report, proactive planning for climate change, so as an example there, what's it called here? Monitoring report. And so bringing those bits of information together, also our experiences, we won't go into it today, but we're just going to table the idea of setting aside a time for a workshop to figure out what our priorities are going forward, how things have worked out in the past, what's going well, where do we need to work from here. So if Linda would be so kind as maybe to give us a review of those resources and what they kind of mean. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah. So the report shows you the progress that you've made towards achieving your priorities and highlights where work is still needed. The most progress that you've made on a second priority was for priority E, good social and physical connections for our communities, with over 55 actions that you've reported against that. Within that priority, over half of those actions were to support community organisations that deliver social services, build community capacity, and or undertake initiatives to connect their communities with funding, legal advocacy. And approximately a third of them were for working with local communities to manage or develop community facilities that support community connection. Within that goal, though, there were two goals, within that priority, there were two goals that haven't had any progress recorded against them, and they are to advocate for improved cycling access and facilities around Banks Peninsula, and to support car share community transport schemes on Banks Peninsula. That may just be because you haven't had the opportunity to do so. Nobody's come forward asking you for that support. The second highest amount of progress goes to priority A, proactive planning for climate change, with 46 actions against that one. Within this priority, over half of all action was for encouraging and supporting community-led resilience planning, including the identification of hazards and risks. There were two goals within that priority that have not had any progress recorded against them, and they are to provide letters of support and advocate for private landowners wanting to fence off and protect land for new and regenerating native forest, and to advocate for the installation of solar panels on suitable council-owned buildings such as libraries. Most other goals within your priorities have between 1 and 5 actions recorded against each, with only 3 recording no progress. And the graphs, there's a page in the report that shows you a graph of the overall. It's really helpful to look at to see the overall progress. You would have read through the report, so I won't go on about it any further, but the question for the board is, what level of progress do you consider to be a success? And how will you achieve that level by the end of the triennium?
That's great, excellent. My crikey voice. Also, this is an opportunity for Gillian to note opportunities that she'd like to be involved in as well. So have a little think about that. And in preparation for the workshop, note the ways in which you have been working towards these goals that haven't actually been noted here, because there'll be other ways that you have been making progress that may not have necessarily been noted by staff in this way already yet. So have a little think about the stuff that you do, the meetings that you go to, the people that you talk to in regards to those particular priorities. So we'll update them as well at the workshop. And the deadline, so this is, you want those before the meeting though, don't you? Is that right?
It'd be helpful to have them before the meetings,
yes,
so that we know exactly where we're at and where we need to put our focus.
Okay, so what will be best, we could send out a reminder, but from today, have a think about, because the deadline of the 30th of September get back to Linda about where we are up to with our priorities. That's including the ones that you haven't been noted already. So that's a bit of homework for you all, just to think about areas of progress that you've been making that's not noted on this form, and get those to Linda before the 30th of September. And I'll make sure I'll send a reminder about that. I'll remind myself to send a reminder about that. And yeah, just when we come to the workshop prepared with ideas to brainstorm as well. So this will be new for Gillian. We have done this once already when we first sort of established as a community board. So that was quite full on to do that kind of at the start of our time together. But hopefully we've got some other things to add, and I definitely have more understanding around how things work. So spheres of influence, we'll talk about those later. So that's cool. Any questions in regards to this process, Gillian?
Well, not the process, but the report, just a couple of point clarification. What are the different colours in the progress? Do they relate to something? So like we've got
Dates. Oh, so there's dates
Oh,
that were added at the top.
Yeah, at the top,
Oh,
there's
okay.
it's a time period,
all right, okay.
Yeah.
So for
which
example,
quarter they relate to.
Oh, okay.
the red ones are from the 1st of August to the 31st of December 2023. So if you're looking, that'll give you an idea of when that progress was made.
Right. My other question is, there's one on page 74 where it talks about act release in predator and pest control on Banks Peninsula, but then the progress relates to commercial fishing restrictions. I don't quite know how those two related.
It's a good point.
That's probably in relation to that shipwreck.
Yeah, that's right.
There was a shipwreck in.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Outer Banks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to put it against those. C16. I'll review where that goes.
Sometimes this
Thank you.
is the main title, but there's a whole lot of sub-actions underneath.
Okay.
You need to be playing with you when you're.
Right.
Okay. I'll make a note of the things that we need when we're looking at this, so that it makes sense and gives it context. Because context is really important when we're trying to figure out priorities and what we have next. Asa.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Linda, for the report. Looks really good. And I think it's a good time for us to reflect on how we are making progress. The total graph, the way it looks, we are making progress on A and E. How do you weight that graph? Is it the number of activities per?
The number of actions I have recorded against each.
Against that. Okay. And does that reflect anything around in relation to LTP submission that the board made? And there is a segment that talks about that there are 215 million of stormwater drainage has been allocated. And in terms of fund allocation against those activities and based on which the projects will be brought to this board. So is there any input from within the organization that goes into that table, or is it just the actions taken by the council or the board in response to the complaints they received?
What's in there at the moment is mainly actions that have come out of our meetings, but we also received a letter back from the council about our LTP submission, and some of that information has gone in there as well.
So we will see some progress in that segment, which is item, I think it was somewhere item G, priority G. So it will go into the actions. We'll make some progress based on that funding allocation against priority G, which is work with all relevant parties to support healthy harbor, and best that includes stormwater.
So are you wondering about what an action is? So this is one of the things we will talk about is
Action within the council or action
yeah.
outside the
So
council?
what is counted as, seeable action? Is it like a project in the pipelines that we know is coming up?
Yep.
That will be something that we action. What do we consider an action? I think that our terms of reference might cover that. So during the workshop, we did discuss maybe having in terms of reference in regards to the wording, because that's about the clarification, what is an action? And then, so what does that mean as far as adding that to our graph as progress?
Yeah.
So I think, is that what you're kind of meaning?
Yes,
Perhaps?
because as a board member, we do quite a lot of things that are not there.
Yeah, and that's what we want to have added
we
to.
could add that
Yeah.
in the areas where we ought educate, meeting with the community members, and then quite a lot of things we could put into that. So at the moment, it's just actions within the council. They are part of this. So that's why, so that total graph shows a bit of an imbalance. It shows that the board priorities are mismatched. They're just focusing on one area, not the other. So when you look at this graph, the total graph, so we don't want to be seen like that, because this is a public document. So we want to have a balanced output on the priorities that we set ourselves. So it could, the actions taken against, complaints or responses to the members of the public within the council, by the council, and by this board, and some, that the board or the council has proactively taken initiatives without any, input from the members of the community. So they don't seem to speak, reflect in the report itself, because it's it's an outlier, this data.
Yeah. And this isn't the end of that annual plan stage. This is a review so that we can see the gaps and we can work on those areas that we see potential as well.
Yeah, you're right. I think if we list, the things that we get involved ourselves into, then there will be a lot of actions that will, it will show and reflect into the graph.
Take note of those thoughts that you have now, bring them to the workshop too.
Yes.
So that we can include
them. Yeah. It would be good if you get a Word copy of that table, so we could. Word copy of that table.
A Word copy?
Yeah, so that we can add into that, keep adding. It's a really good report. It highlights quite a lot of things, and at the end of 3 years, if we, bring this graph up to speed, that we are making progress in multiple items, priorities that we made.
That's good.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, it would be good to have your input on that, being the data sort of analyst person that you are. Great. Any other questions in regards to what's being tabled today, and also any questions about moving forward towards a workshop around this?
I just have one, which is because I wasn't involved before, but so the graphs, the first one, when it talks about the vision statement, and it's got 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Presumably they are different statements, but I don't. Yes, is that what they are? That's. Yeah.
Yes, if you were.
Yeah.
Yes, if you were to go into our vision in the board web page, you would find 4 different statements under our vision statement.
Yeah.
And so that is to do with those. And these are achievements that you've made that don't particularly fit into any of your priorities, but they definitely feed into your vision statement. So that's why I put that there.
Okay. Just being a geographer and marking science times, it's quite good to label whatever. What
it refers to?
Yeah.
Or label the number, so like 1 would be the whole.
Basically, x-axis, y-axis label.
Yeah.
Is kind of handy.
Okay, good note.
Especially for other people reading it, I suppose, because they don't.
Yeah.
Have any idea than.
Yep, good feedback, thank you.
Yeah.
Words.
It's great. All right. Any other questions before we put this to the vote?
Yep.
Tyrone.
Okay, so I guess there's probably no need to mention all things that are missing, because we're going to workshop it.
We'll workshop it, yeah.
And talk about it, right? So that's all good. Like the post office in Akaroa. Yeah. And what did I want to say? So for things like, what was it? Naval Point, just kind of mentioned, like, oh yeah.
What page are you on
Maybe 80, 81 kind of thing.
81.
So H34 is kind of bullet points. So for example, the implementation of Te Nukutai or Tapua Naval Point Development Plan is fully funded through the annual, I mean, it is as far as I'm aware.
Just wondering about the statements if they are true or accurate.
But I mean, obviously we can tease that out in a workshop, but what am I trying to say there? Like, I mean, that's kind of almost like an ongoing, I mean, the progress to date is, I mean, it's massively been redeveloped in the last 3 years. And we're kind of on a, I mean, what are we trying to tease out in a workshop around something like that?
Around whether you've succeeded in achieving your goals or not?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, because I mean, Naval Point has hugely transformed, and there's plenty to go. But I mean, it's baked into the LTP, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. All of that stuff.
Around the Rex.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, and there are lots of things in here that are kind of going on in the background that we aren't necessarily directly involved in, but
That's right.
we're supportive of, like cycling access around the peninsula and that sort of stuff. So that's cool. Like, I mean, obviously we can tease it out there's nothing to add here really. It's just.
So they're all good to discuss in the workshop, and also what learnings we can get from the goals that you have written and for your last plan about whether they're within your sphere of influence and whether they're actually, you know, practically achievable, and what changes you might make when you're considering new goals for the next annual plan, if you're still on the board then.
And actually there's lots of crossover between these things, between some of these points as well.
Yeah, there is a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you to note those, even if you think, well, that's been mentioned there, still note it, even if it's got a different, slight theme, if there's crossover. But also note those things that you have questions about, like you're thinking, there's some gaps here. What does that mean? Note that down, because that also will add to the discussion for the workshop. So yeah, this is really just to get your brain thinking along this way. And if it's starting to go, oh yeah, what about this? What about that? Note that down. This is all the good stuff that we're going to be talking about. And like you said, we'll tease it out.
Cool.
Tease it out. We'll have a good amount of time. We'll bring lollies and we'll work on it.
We've been busy anyway, that's good.
Yes. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well,
this is just about keep maintaining the momentum and just, you know, making sure that we're covering all our bases, really. Well, not bases, making sure we're, across everything. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so.
When was the workshop, sorry?
October. 7 October, we were thinking about holding one after the meeting on the 7th of October.
Okay, cool.
Suits everybody.
Yep, so if that'll be a priority, if you can make it. And okay, any other burning questions before we go to finding a mover and a seconder? No, okay, just happy to move it.
Yep.
Tyrone, seconder, and Asif, thank you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Have that workshop. It will be a good process. Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much for your work on that. Appreciate it. And come on up. And Jane, congratulations. I don't think I've formally seen you, so you've got your new bundle of joy. How's your new bundle of joy?
She's good.
Yeah?
And she's
How old is she now?
she's just gone
Quick question.
10 weeks. So so
Okay.
growing very fast, keeping us busy, not keeping us awake too much, although, yeah.
Awesome. Great. So what have you got for us today here in the?
So Maureen, this is the report to present some better off projects for your consideration. So there is 336,000 remaining in the year off fund. So the community managed facilities audit, which was presented at your last meeting, identified a number of needs and actions for community managed facilities across Banks Peninsula. And these were compiled into a table which was attached to your the report that you received last month. So some of those actions and needs are able to be progressed through community facilities team and the community governance team. But some of them required funding that wasn't in any existing budget. And so those are the projects that have been considered in this report. So there are 6 projects, and there's also a small planning and contingency budget included as well, so that the planning works and any sort of unforeseen costs can be covered so that the projects can be successfully delivered. And then a small amount, or the remaining amount, allocated to enable Allendale Hall to reopen in alignment with the LTP recommendation that was made in July by the council. So the 6 projects are the Port Levy Community Hall, which it's the toilet and kitchen block there, for that to be upgraded. Birdlings Flat, the addition of storage at the community centre there. Pigeon Bay Hall repairs to the veranda, Akuti Valley Hall toilet and deck kind of upgrade and repairs. Manawa Kawhiu Littleton Rec Centre, some entrance heating and improvements. Diamond Harbour Hall, driveway, some sort of drainage and driveway improvements, along with, as I mentioned, the planning and contingency, and the remainder of the funds to go to the Allendale Hall works to enable the hall to reopen, and any remaining funds in planning and contingency was proposed to go to Allendale Hall as well. But happy to take any questions, and yeah.
Fantastic amount of work, and just how this works off the back of the managed audit facility, and also taking into account the areas that will not be able to be funded in any other possible way. Yeah, so any questions around that?
I just have a point of clarification. So with the conflict of interest, could you clarify what involvement or otherwise?
So whether you're allowed to vote on this?
Yeah, discuss,
vote, good to clarify.
You shouldn't take part in any of the board's discussion or vote on it, please. But on the Port Levy part, you can talk about the other. Allendale Hall.
Good question.
Diamond Harbour.
Yeah, so we don't need to vote separately, right? Like, so when we vote, we just all vote together, and then we just know that Gillian's got a conflict on that.
All right.
So, no, thank you. Like, this is pretty amazing, really. It's not often the board gets to mix a whole bunch of kind of like persistent sort of niggly issues that might go on forever that we can like resolve pretty much upfront. Particularly, you know, like that stuff in Port Levy. So these figures are all relatively precise, like 109,187. So those costings have come from
quotes by the organisation, mostly the organisation that's sort of going to lead the work, have received quotes for the works.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
And so take Port Levy, for example. So that 109,000, that will, in theory, cover the entire cost of the project. There's no community fundraising here, or
No, it's not.
No,
that's cool.
right. Yeah.
And so if the 109,000 isn't enough, what happens then?
So that's why we've got that small contingency in planning budget, though it is, I suppose, small, just so that if there are small costs, then there is the ability for those to be covered. But I guess If the project turned out that it was going to cost more than what the quote has come in at, they'd need to rescope it to fit within the budget, or there could be fundraising that could be done, or, you know, other funds could be sought. But, you know, we sort of recognise that these funds are hard to get for facilities. So it's not like there's a lot of funding options out there to, you know, bring to the table, but fundraising could be an option. But really it would be probably modifying the scope to fit within the budget would be probably the key.
And council funding a significant portion would make it more attractive for other funders as well. So,
yeah.
you know, we'd probably be getting them 90% of the way. Yeah, it's good. So part of that organisation would be more feasible than it would be otherwise.
Thank you.
Far away.
Thank you. So with Allendale, that 21, noting that that the hall's been closed for 2 years, and they're really keen to get it reopened. That 21,000. So I'm just looking for the thing again. So that will. Just what's the 21,000 going to cover for Allendale?
It's 78,000.
No, 78,000 is the total cost of the project. We're only giving 21.
Right.
So that would be set aside within a council fund, and it would be dependent on the outcome of the sort of LTP resolution. Is going to mean that there's a report that goes to council for the annual plan.
Yeah.
And so it would be there depending on the outcome of that decision. So it wouldn't be, the intention wouldn't be for it to be released immediately, because obviously it's not, you know, I don't know what the point is of releasing a small amount of funding when we know it's going to cost more to address the issues. But it would be dependent on the outcome of that council decision. There would be some contribution of funding sitting there.
Yeah. It's signalling our support around that as well. Yeah.
But again, the value is quite precise, 21,324, and that is
The balance.
It's just the remaining funds.
Of the 226. It's just the wash up from all the other stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cool. So we're basically saying, yep, here's a chunk.
Here's a starter.
Yeah, and we need to find the rest. Yeah. I mean, it would be nice. Yeah. Look, I've made the resolutions being passed by council to look for funding for it, so that's fine. No problem. Good. Makes sense. Next question. So only 2% of this 236 has been allocated to projects in Littleton. Not really. There just wasn't anything, any kind of applications or anything that stood out, or. I'm not saying I can think of things, I'm just out of interest.
There wasn't a huge number of, so you look at the Littleton Rec Centre being the main building in this area, that's already had a significant amount of money spent on it over the years. It's in a good condition. It wasn't the highest need. Looking at it from an equity perspective, there are other facilities that sort of had a higher need. So that's why this instance it wasn't spent on that.
That's cool. Now, if there were any sort of small kind of discretionary projects that we wanted to support from this funding, what would be the process there?
Well, so the board is delegated to make decisions on this, but ideally there'd be a staff report kind of assessing this against the criteria that we use for better off funding. So it would need to come from somewhere. So all of it's allocated in this report. So if there was something else, we could look at it as an option, but yeah, it would still need to align with the priorities that are set out better off funding.
Yeah.
It would need to be assessed accordingly.
But you would probably make a request out of the report today that staff
investigate.
Yeah, investigate such and such and report back to the board.
But it would mean that they'd potentially, so say that the project didn't align with we didn't recommend it for funding, then there'd be 3,000 that would just be left over a little bit. So we need to find a use for that. Whereas today it gets spent, we know it's going towards a project, so there's kind of certainty there. Yeah, it depends on the project.
Right. And the alignment, what were the criteria
Yeah.
used to assess?
Back on page 89,
Yeah,
you'll see the,
thank you.
So primarily it'd be the strengthening, so there are a series of different elements that federal funding is supposed to align with.
repairing infrastructure. and
That's the one we've applied for, but
Yeah.
in general, it needs to be, it's weighed up largely against the communities together strategy. So that's the pillars there.
Could I just jump in here? The reason that we did the facilities audit was so that we could get a really good, clear picture of the facilities, all of the community managed facilities on the peninsula. And so having that really good data, we've spent a lot of time going through all of that, and we're able to identify what were the key, the most important, most impactful things that were needed, which is why this has come to you as it has. So we do have a really good picture, good clear picture of what's needed throughout the peninsula. And yes, there are other smaller projects, but these were the ones that really displayed the most need and would have the most benefit for the communities.
Right. I mean, I have one grant that I can think of that springs to mind that would be a retrospective grant, and I don't want to necessarily go there and discuss it in public right now, but like, let's just say that, we're only talking a small amount of money, but if we were to go down that process of allocating, a small amount of money for, though I think it fits in with strengthening communities, how would we go about that?
I mean, you could just consider a DRE for that. Depends on what sort of level of funding, but
that would require an application.
It would, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think would be appropriate.
Depending on what areas of peninsula sorry, now I'm kind of interrupting you. Depending on what part of the peninsula it is, you could just maybe talk to that particular CDA in regards to the best direction for funding with that. That be an option as well?
Yeah. I'd also note that we don't fund restricted applications, so we'd be making an exception. So it would have to be, it has to be really strong alignment for us to generally recommend making that exception. It's not something we do historically.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. Can I?
Yeah. Last question, I think, unless there's any other burning ones, we'll move on.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Tara. So a number of meetings, we mentioned better off fund a couple of times that it would be good fit in certain, for certain projects. Personally, the better off fund, when it came in its main essence was to support and contribute to our community's well-being by prioritizing things that communities have told us are important. So that, for the record, this report has come from the staff, not from the community. But we discussed earlier on that we didn't have enough time to, we had to either use it or lose this fund. So that's why I think we talked about this. I think it's a good report.
I don't think there's a use it or lose it situation.
It was that situation we discussed earlier.
And I would also like to say, I think this is from the community, because
it's not.
The audit has been working directly with those facilities, which is directly with the community.
5 items that could be spent on more trees and enhanced biodiversity, safe neighborhood, local communities facility is one of them. Responding to climate change through adaptation planning and encouraging action travel. So we are focusing on just one item, not on the 4. But is that not the case that we use it or lose it with this better fund? So that was the case. That's why we went down this road.
Yeah, there was a period of time when it was considered that it was.
So that was, so now it is not that case?
Not the same.
Okay, so in that case, this funding could go for a other, I agree with Aaron in that regard, if that is the case. In maintaining these council-owned facilities, it's a council that puts money into, and of course, in the LTP, the funding has been allocated for that purpose. There are other projects that I know of, I'm aware of, this funding could better fit there.
So are you saying that because the council already puts money into these facilities, you don't feel that is the case? Well,
Yeah.
that would be a challenge for a start, I think.
Challenge.
As in that these ones here aren't necessarily, perhaps we could get some input about in regards to which of these facilities don't get direct input from the city council at this stage.
Yeah, do you want to come up to the table? Is that okay?
Thanks, Matt.
Well, yeah.
So they're all council facilities. The majority of them are community facilities. They would all get a degree of input from council. What is happening here is, following your audit, you've heard from communities that have said, here's the work that we'd like to take place. In most of the cases, it's not work that we would consider priority across the network. Therefore, what's happening is you're jumping into the top of the queue. In a lot of the cases, most of the grants are going to community organisations. The community organisations are going to develop that themselves. So which is great for us because it means they're taking ownership of it, and they'll get all sorts of efficiencies that we wouldn't necessarily be able to achieve. So you're probably getting more value for money out of using the money this way to invest in the community facilities than perhaps you would do with us. So you're jumping into the top of the queue. If you decided not to make any, not that you may say this, but if you decided not to make any of the grants and to ask staff to go away and rethink through how you're going to use the money, the facilities that are on here, they're not in my work programme for this year. We're looking at an investment framework which will prioritise facilities. I can't guarantee that they would be in the work programme going forward. So what you're doing by putting the money into it now is you're saying, actually, we're going to enable these things to happen, and they'll happen pretty quickly.
One critical facility is Allendale that the community wanted to get that open. So with giving that $21,000 now will ensure that it all will be open.
No. So with the grant, so what you're effectively doing, so there's an LTP resolution, which was made at the end of the LTP process.
Moved by me.
Moved by Councillor Fields, which is asking us to work with the Governor's Bay Residents Association to come up with a solution or a programme of works for council to consider through the annual plan process, which would open the hall. Now, what we know at the moment is we think it's the investigations that we've done to date are around $78,000 plus some ongoing operational costs to get Allendale open and up and running. Again, that money, we haven't prioritised that at the moment because there were a number of other work streams that were going on. Following wherever you land on this meeting, we'll be talking to the Residents Association and saying, right, what is it? I've asked last week, I asked for a new scope of works. So we can really tighten up that. Is it actually going to cost $78,000? Has that gone up? Has some of that gone down? We will come up with a good package. What the board are effectively doing by making a grant towards Allendale Hall is saying to council, we think this is really important. If it's going to cost $80,000, we've already paid a quarter of it through our better off funding, potentially more, because if you're planning a contingency isn't spent, then you've paid the majority of it. So the ask to council is much less through the annual plan process.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Brilliant.
I just have a couple of questions. One was another point of clarification, just because I was a bit confused. Section 7, page 106, that looks to me like, so that's 21,324. That looks like another contingency fund. So it seems like there's two, but this one isn't in the initial table at the beginning. Is it additional or?
There is only one contingency, so it is just the 20,000. Did you say the amount was?
This is 21,324.
That would be the wash up, the remaining funds in the Better Off Fund. So that's the one that's proposed to sit in an internal council fund for allocation to Allendale Hall, subject to the decision that council makes in the annual plan.
So there's the 21,324 and then there's the 20.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Another point I was wondering about is, so based on community need, I assume it's also based to some degree on how many people use different facilities.
Yes, yeah. So part of the staff assessment looked at the level of use of the facility by local communities and the sort of breadth of uses, including whether it was used as an emergency hub for civil defence events, emergency events.
Yeah.
And that's good, that's a tick as far as climate resilience.
Because in that regard too, following on from Councillor Field's comments about Littleton being denser population than everywhere else, then anything spent there would have more benefit than small communities somewhere else. Yeah. And one other point was just in terms of had a question about how the money spent is monitored and how you know that how we know that what is given to groups is then spent for those people.
Yeah,
I can answer that one so the majority of the money is going to grants to community organisations. They can't do any work on the hall without speaking to us. So although we've got quotes for an upgrade of toilet and kitchen block and toilet upgrade, we would expect them to bring those quotes back into the community facilities team or project manager. So they'll be paying the invoices, but we'll be seeing what it is that they've said they've done, and we'll be ensuring that it's up to sufficient quality. So Pigeon Bay did this really successfully recently. They replaced their kitchen. So it was all, we didn't contribute anything to it. They did all the work themselves. They did a fantastic job. They had a project manager. We worked alongside the project manager. We made sure that everything was done to the standard that it needed to be, met all of our needs, met all of their needs. They were able to deliver it. So we would do the same thing here.
and then from our perspective, we would report back in the area report on the progress of each grant or project. Yeah.
My experience would suggest that the amount that will be granted, I mean, whenever you do construction, budgets change. I would expect it likely to go up rather than to make savings. Yeah. They might make savings, and I think they would be very transparent and talk through that if that were the case. Hence the contingency.
I had a question from earlier when you were mentioning your priority list for your facilities. So how many facilities are there in Christchurch?
So something like 84, 86 over 72, 74 sites.
And
that's just community facilities.
community facilities, not
parks.
parks, right? And that's under your area. How many of those do you think are on the priority list?
They're all on the list. The challenge is the quality and the condition of some of the facilities. So the task that we find ourselves with is we've got a budget that's this big and it's required to be that big. And the ongoing maintenance budget is this big, it's required to be that big. So it means that not everybody gets as much love as they should do.
Yes.
And so it means that the condition declines. Now, what's happened traditionally is that the buildings that have been well utilised, because they're getting used all the time, is where the investment has gone to. So the thing, it's not a major shift, but the shift that we're looking to do is a community investment framework where utilisation is absolutely looked at,
yeah.
But actually other things are taken into account as well.
Yes.
I think the other thing that I would say that we're seriously looking at through community investment framework is community resilient or climate resilient. Yeah. So what does that look like? We've got some facilities that if you put it over vulnerability maps, they'd look vulnerable. Doesn't mean you don't need the facility. It does mean that we need to mitigate it, and that would mean that you'd need to do an investment. And we've also got some facilities that are earthquake prone. And so we need to, and we've had, it's not a luxury, but there has been a period of time where we've not had to think around those. That time is running out. And so we are going to need to consider what we're going to do with those, which is we're going to repair them and bring them up to standards, or we're not. And you know, and so we didn't need to make those decisions in the past. We do need to make those decisions now. It kind of brings things to a head, and that means that that's where chunks of money will get invested. So it's kind of the pointy end of the conversation is where we're coming up to. Yeah, we'd like to have that already. Council well briefed, council well prepped for consideration for the next LTP, and then certainly for the one after, because that's where all the earthquake prone buildings will need to be resolved by that point. And we know with community facilities, whatever decision we make, wherever the facility is, everybody loves their local facility. So it's not quick or easy. And we, you know, so we take it with the gravitas that it's got.
So I guess the point that I was trying to understand with that question is, if we don't necessarily work with these facilities now on, especially some of the bigger amounts, they might not necessarily be able to source that from anywhere else.
Correct.
Yeah.
We may continue, we may say in terms of utilisation, you know, so this is not a climate risk, utilisation is low, you know, we're going to leave things as they are. It's in poor condition, which kind of builds a compelling, where it builds an increasing narrative of it's not getting used. But as a result, we wouldn't fund it. We would put it where the high usage.
And that is the main reason that, you know, all the communities on Banks Peninsula, they're isolated. They are not, you know, the population is not that much. So they have got only that facility in most of the cases.
Yeah.
So that makes.
So the social investment is quite important there, yeah.
Correct. And that's something else that we're taking into consideration, travel distance from one place to another. You know, is it fair? Is it equitable that somebody has to travel 30 minutes to get to the facility? So
Yeah, maybe.
Right, okay. Last question.
Can I request an adjournment because I want to talk to staff about something?
I just need to check
It's
that.
on you. You're the chair.
Unless the staff advises any reason not to, I think that's fine by me.
And the reason for adjournment as well?
Go to the toilet.
I just want to talk through this. Yeah.
Yeah, just adjourn. Yeah.
Just for now.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Return at 11:34.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great. can't do that. Let's go back up to the top where the resolution is at. Okay, so we're back online. Thanks for that, team. We just had a bit of a break and a bit of a comfort stop, and I'm just filibustering until we've all got everybody at the table so that we
First time we've filibustering.
so that we can then go back up to the top of this. So we're talking about better off funding projects for consideration, and that we're receiving the information today and noting the decisions in the report and potentially approving. So unless we've got any other really burning questions, because we need to move on, can I have a mover for this? That's Tyrone, and a seconder is us. Everybody's in. Everybody's in. Okay.
Sorry, bro, you can move it.
Noted. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? And that is carried. I'd just like to say thanks so much to the team for the amount of effort that's been put into this to gather all that data to help us make a decision, because it's great to be able to see it all laid out. So well done.
This has been fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, where are we up to? Discretionary response fund applications, Cathbay Residents Association, Little River Play Centre and Little River Railway Station Trust. Good stuff. Yes.
Got three of us here. So take the reports as read. If you have any questions, yes. All of that.
Okay, I'm just going to the page here. Do we have any questions from the team in regard to that?
No questions, just a conflict. Cathbay Residents Association.
Okay.
I'm a volunteer with that.
Great, thank you.
You
Noted.
remember?
Yes. I'm not on the committee, but a member of the association.
Paid up.
Oh, great. Good stuff. So we've got the mobile emergency kit, we've got the bark renewal and blinds. Oh, good stuff. Yeah. Anything else? No? Can I have, I'll move that. Yeah, no, there's no conflict there. I'll move that. Thank you. Any seconder for that? Tyrone, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried.
Good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, team.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, very good.
We've got the community board area report. Pen.
Yes. Plenty of stuff in the report.
Yeah.
The team. Thanks.
So busy.
And a table in here with the Summer with Your Neighbours allocations. Heather and I approved with my brand new delegation that you just gave me recently. So we did base it on a formula, but we sort of, we increased some amounts to make them useful.
Yeah, that's good.
But still stuck within the limit of the $300.
Perfect.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to sort of the legal changes, I guess, that are affecting the community groups. And I know staff have been working closely in regards to offering workshops and things. How is there any feedback from staff in regards to how we can make things easier? I mean, I know you're doing what you've been doing, how that's going. Is that quite tough for groups? Anybody in particular I could ask here in regards to that?
Any of the advisors like to respond? This is the changes to the incorporated site.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's bringing in a lot more work, really, isn't it, for groups? Like paperwork, homework.
Jane, you? Here she goes. You're on mute.
Mute myself. Yeah, so there is quite a lot of information for groups to digest, and there's a couple of places that groups are able to go to get free support for this. So there's workshops have been held by Community Law, by Parry Field Lawyers. They've got a whole website on it and lots of information. They offer free one-on-one conversations with groups, as well as they've offered quite a number of workshops. So there are people out there that are providing really good quality information and websites with lots of information that groups can work through. It is a process of working through that information. I know in Wairewa, the Little River Wairewa Community Trust Manager actually pulled a whole lot of information together and ran a workshop that she invited people from the Wairewa and Akaroa wards along to, and quite a few people came to that. And she's also sent out information where she's summarised quite a bit of the information off those websites and off, you know, the information, the people that she's spoken to. So yeah, I think it may be something that groups leave to the last minute. So it may be that we will end up with a lot more queries about it when we're getting closer, because there's long periods of time to before it all needs to be done. And I've sent out a lot of information and I haven't had an awful lot back, which makes me think that people are putting it in the too hard basket possibly. So I think it will be a body of work for us to do as advisors, to just keep talking to groups and making sure that they're aware of where the information can come from. And but I think at this stage we haven't put together something ourselves, because there are other people with a lot better legal know-how who have been doing that and made that available widely.
We've had two workshops, and we had one in Akaroa and one in Littleton.
Yeah.
So those are both pretty well attended.
That's good.
Yeah.
I just know there's quite a big change of culture for a lot of our groups. Our reserve committees have got the same question: do they want to, you know, go this route? You know, volunteers, we've just been hearing it's hard to get volunteers, and if there's extra pressure, I just wanted to keep our finger on the pulse with this, really, with our groups on the peninsula, and try to support them when we can, understand the pressures that they're under.
Yeah, and I think probably the biggest piece of work people will have to do is rewrite their constitutions, and it's actually, that can be quite a good thing, because a lot of groups have constitutions that have been around for a really long time and they haven't looked at and really thought about how relevant they are to today's work and what they're doing now. So yes, it's work, and it's work for volunteers, and that's hard, but it's also could be a really positive thing. And I think if we can support them to do that, so they're not sat on their own just trying to figure out how to do it, you know, they can get support from, as I said, those other groups who are providing support. But as advisors, you know, we can sit down with people and help them work through their constitutions, and it may be a really beneficial thing to make sure that their rules and processes line up well with, sorry, that's Molly. Sean's just bringing the car back. It's very exciting. Yeah, to make sure that their rules and their constitutions line up with the work that they're doing now. So that is a bit of a silver lining that comes out of, you know, what is quite a bit of work. Apart from that, you know, for perhaps organisations that have a lot of money that they're dealing with coming through, you know, the reporting will change. There may be some things that are more complex, but for most of our groups on the peninsula, they're smaller groups, and they're, yeah, what they need to do won't change an awful lot. It's just that process of making sure they've ticked all the boxes.
Right, thank you.
Something I might contribute there is, because I'm involved with a group that didn't have a constitution before, and there's probably various groups like that around, and that I've found, well, as far as I think I'm doing the right thing, is that looking on the website, there's a constitution, I can't remember what's the name of it, but there's a constitution builder.
Yeah. So that's communitynet.com, and when we work with groups who want to become, you know, create a legal entity, working with the reserve committees at the moment who are looking at that, they're really useful documents. And it's moved away from where you had templates that you just fill in the bits to the builders, because it's incredibly useful for a group to actually sit down and discuss and think about the things that they want to put in their constitution, not just sort of cut and paste something that already exists. It takes time, you know, when you're doing it, but actually when issues come up later on, it's much better to have worked through and built a constitution that makes sense for that group.
And that didn't seem like a long process. It's quite quick to work through. The only thing would be then if there was things you need to discuss, which there will be the odd thing. But
so often it's a matter of supporting people to get started and to actually look at doing it. I think a lot of people, from what I can gather, are not going there because they feel like it's going to be a really huge amount of work. So again, that's something as advisors that we can help support.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that feedback. Anything else about the area report that elected members might have questions about? No? Oh,
Well, not questions, but comments.
sure.
Just on attachment B and attachment C. Liz is going to love me for this.
It's your favourite. Your Tyrone.
What's the process for suggesting some improvements to those? I mean, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just looking, just doesn't quite deliver what I would like to see in it.
The graffiti one,
No,
Yes.
attachment D.
B and C.
The two CSR ones.
This would have to go through. I was.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, that's good.
That was perhaps something you should have brought up at your information session back in August
okay,
with the team.
Yeah,
right.
that's fair.
Yep, cool. All right, anything from there before we move and put motion forward? Yep, okay. I'm happy to move that. Seconder, please. Asif, all those in favour? And against? That is carried. Right, moving on to elected members, information exchange. This is, Asif, did you want to start? Because this is where you can bring up your late correspondence.
Yeah.
We have, might want to give him context so that. Oh, really? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. For a minister competition, starting with post office opening in Accra. Thank you from the community of Accra and the base, and they're very happy with the work council has done. Thank you, Tara. For
Can I just have I don't pick up what community you were talking about?
Accra and the base for the post office reopening in the old post office building where it belonged. Everyone is very happy, and thank you for that. I had a good meeting with Accra Sports Board President Jane, and they are doing a good fundraising. And thank you, Council, for writing a support letter for their fundraising, and they have roughly raised around 40,000 already.
14.
40. 40. Yeah.
Oh, good job.
Yeah. Thank you. Accra and the Base Resilience Group, they are working, consulting with stakeholders, and they have completed the first round of stakeholder consultation, and they're working on it, writing a draft resilience plan for Accra and the Base.
Which resilience associations?
Accra and the Base Resilience Group. So they are working towards the first round. LGNZ conference and community board conference I attended, and myself, Lynn, and Nigel. It was really good. And Gillian, yeah, thank you. One thing that I learned there, and I think it would be an opportunity for this board and the council, is the announcement of regional deals. I think it's a good opportunity that we could, quite a lot of projects that on the peninsula we want to do could be funded through that pool. And RVL international visitors levy that has been increased from to $100, that will generate a significant amount of money, but the fund could only be distributed through the council. So this board could lobby towards acquiring that fund and improve some of our critical infrastructure that are related to tourists and tourism. So there is a good opportunity. I think I can share some documents that could be very helpful for other board members as well. Yeah. Last week I had a meeting with Accra Voice of Peace. It's a small community group. They have been working and advocating for peace in the Middle East. And they've been writing letters to the members of parliament for quite some time, and they recently wrote one for this board. The letter has been tabled. I just want to add a few things that they mentioned and they reiterated during our meeting. They were concerned about the displacement of over 2 million people in the Gaza Strip. And they're worried about expansion of war in the West Bank. And what they are asking is like, New Zealand has a clear legal obligation to do all it can to prevent breach of international law that apply to the conflict. Our response is not a question of foreign policy or subject to negotiation or diplomatic discussion. With regards to Gaza, a public insistence on an immediate and permanent ceasefire and the unhindered supply of aid is one way we can demonstrate an honest commitment to our humanitarian obligation and values. And as local board members, you have the power and responsibility to ensure international laws and being respected and applied unconditionally. We strongly believe that you can make a difference by voicing our concerns to our council and central government. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Basil. Appreciate that. Who would like to be next? You raising your hands, Kathy? How do you feel about being next?
Put a long list, you have to summarize this.
That's okay, no problem.
I will need to do a hybrid ticket for 2 residents in Littleton that have concerns around the Simeon and Godly Key intersection. So I've just forwarded to staff, but I will, do that. And it was just regarding the dangerous intersection.
Can they do that
And
themselves, Kathy, to save you?
Yeah, because they were, they could do, but they were working today and they wanted to come and do a public forum, but I think a hybrid ticket is probably a better one. So since it's sent to me, I could just forward it.
This is the
section
intersection where you're coming up Godley and Simeon comes across.
There was a whole lot of talk on Facebook, and following on from that. Lucy had her car written off over Christmas and things like that. And anyway, they've written statements which can
Collectively hold that thought around this table.
Okay, we're holding the thought.
Until I I'll answer that.
Right. LPC is up for a Port Sustainability Awards for their work in collaboration with Banks Peninsula Conservation on the port saddle plantings and things. So you can go and vote. So it's I think the port sort of awards. Around Casper, they've been the steadfast break-ins in the drill hall, but also at the boat sheds. So potential break-in at the boat sheds, but that sort of stuff's happening. Someone's literally brought a ladder into the bay, climbed up and cut the cameras down. So I think, and then destroyed the light. So maybe something's coming up or don't know, but that was not very good. And then the AED was also removed, that community donated, but it had a tracker on it, so it got brought back and So things are happening. There's fan worms in the bays. It's come to Cass Bay as well. So I think Whakaora Healthy Harbour will have like lots more, they're talking about sediments and things like that, but that sort of pest stuff will be on their radar too. Went to a multicultural, the multicultural centre. We're doing connecting communities and welcoming communities event. So join that. That was really good. I'll leave the Harbour Business one for you. The new ferry is doing a launch. I think we invited to that one this week. Our Pātaka Trust, the grant we gave them, their fire risk analysis report is about ready. So that'll be interesting. And Jenny didn't mention this morning, but in the interim, I think where she mentioned about not having quorums at meetings or whatever, would the girls' dormitory be a good interim to use? I think that doesn't have asbestos, and I think I sent a thing by you to staff. where that can be like waterproofed and be used in the interim.
Okay, so you've already written in a
I think
CSR.
that-
then?
So, yeah. Who did I?
Or a
email? I
bank
can't remember.
statement.
Yeah,
Yes.
just sort of say
Yeah,
what.
Joe's nodding, it's got to
Yeah,
Joe.
cool.
Okay.
So I think she just didn't mention it properly this morning.
Okay.
Yep, that's, oh, sorry. And road safeties, a request from Rapaki, one of the residents mentioned coming into Rapaki. There's like, come down the road there and the turn off there is not very safe. So in terms of putting maybe even like a slow down sign or something on the road, it's a customer, okay, cool. And then mirrors at the intersection, that's another kind of, and that was by Casper and Rapaki was also mentioned about that.
Cool, thank you. Great. Should we keep going around this way, Tyrone?
Yeah, so just picking up on what Kathy was talking about that intersection, I've also been having conversations with staff around the safety elements of that particular intersection, notably that there's a kind of like a ramp that's kind of evolved over time. That's sort of, I mean, you could ask one person who says, I love doing jumps over it on my mountain bike, but I mean, the reality is it's a safety issue. And so it's on that same intersection.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that rather than these two things kind of just operating in a separate universes, there are safety concerns, and it's not the first time that this has been raised about that particular intersection. It's been ongoing forever. But just be quite good just to sort of, I mean, we can ask staff to do that, but just to connect that there are some safety concerns around that intersection, whether it's about treatment, or it's about the configuration of it, or the signage utilised to operate the intersection. But we just want to be able to have that all addressed. I think that's I wouldn't have thought about that until you raised that, so that was good. Thank you. So secondly, so we obviously had that presentation this morning from Holly and Sarah, and I'm picking that I mean, it looks like an amazing project that they're doing. So I'm picking that they probably are going to be seeking some funding. Perhaps is that on them to come back to us? Yeah, so that's good. Be a DRF sort of a thing, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Good to know. And that looks amazing. Will we be inviting Russell Coots to the underwater subaquatic symphony? So that's that. What else did I have? Oh yeah. So what I did note, actually, just on that presentation by Holly and Sarah, was that there's going to be some activation of the what?
The swimming pool?
Oh no, that's not absolutely, that's cool. But the woolshed at Tiana, which has been notably dormant since it got zhushed up. And so that's good. That's very encouraging, because because that also ties in quite nicely is that I've had a little bit of correspondence recently just about plans for that. And so I think that there's the community are sort of like, well, we've got this facility, there's this thing down there, what are the future uses for it? And we don't kind of know. And that's on LPC. It'd be nice to be able to get some feedback from the port, some information about, what kind of future uses are. I don't know how open they need to be about that, but it's just it seems to be something that's kind of bubbling away. Just wondering, maybe like a briefing to the board or something like that. Possible?
They have a meeting tomorrow night.
Who does?
Liaison committee.
Oh, is that on the agenda? Oh, sorry, actually, good point, Gillian, because I should have just asked you. But yeah, that's obviously just bubbling away, so that's good that we could share that. be interesting to get some info there. How do I please call this? Just.
Do you want us to come back to you?
Oh, no, and just another thing, just the endless like little road treatments that we get around the sort of the inner harbour route. But there's also some concern about up on Sumner Road, just further up where kind of the ramp sort of where it joins sort of St. David's Street. It's hard to explain, but it kind of merges with St. David's Street. There's kind of some steps, and it's actually part of the head-to-head walkway. But the steps, they come down onto Sumner Road and they don't really go anywhere. So we're encouraging pedestrians to use the steps, and I know a lot of school children do use it. And so I've just asked for some information on a crossing there to link the steps to the other side where there's a footpath. So I'm just raising that just to say I've done a thing. I'm just letting you know that I've done that. Just asking for more information because I don't operate in a vacuum. And that'll just about do it for now. I'm sure there's loads of things, but there's some key things.
Thank you, Tyrone.
Thank you.
I was also lucky enough to go up to the conference in Wellington for local government and community boards. There's lots of stuff I took away from there, but mainly in regards to kind of like just our democracy, trying to get decision making as close to the people as possible, close to the ground, and how important community boards are in that role of that we have direct contact with our community and we have some delegation where we can be helpful in those kind of working. So it's good. The term is localism, but the idea around it is just to make sure that people are making decisions when they have information directly from people, and they know what they're making decisions on because they're involved in it and they have background information. And yeah, so I liked that. That was cool. With my Wairewa hat on, we've got some last sort of meetings with the Little River Big Ideas, who is being put together by the trust out there. And they have got a whole lot of ideas that the community has contributed to, and they're doing a few sessions where they're asking the community to, let's really, prioritise, because we've got so many. We want to know which people really want to back. We want to know which directions we need to be heading in and if we're going in the right direction. So that's kind of what they're doing next. And I'm sure they will be coming and presenting at some point over the coming months to us as a board. So that's exciting. The flooding mitigation meeting is coming up this week. So that's bringing together lots of partners from ECAN and the council and, local representatives in regards to flooding in Wairewa. And they will be reporting back on some mapping that has been done and what next steps will lead from that. So that's really just to identify the problem areas so that we can figure out how we can mitigate the flooding in that area. Coronation Library. So I spoke at the very last minute. Information came to hand, so I spoke at council in regards to this ongoing, we're going to break ground any day, and then hearing contradictory information back from staff. So we're moving forward with that now, and hopefully that will stay the same information moving forward with that. I don't think there's anything else I need to add on that one. And did you want to hear back about unsealed roads still?
Yeah, I mean, Asif's given me a list as long as your arm, so.
Okay. I have not contributed yet with whatever stuff, so if you are still needing stuff, I will do that. Okay.
So it's all good, like, yeah.
That would be really good if staff have that list as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I.e. through you. Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome. That's me, I think.
Me? Yeah. Pātaka. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry I haven't been at the last two. My tan is wearing off from when I was in Samoa recently, so a bit disappointed about that. Prior to going away, I met with Howard Buchanan from the Charterist Bay Residents Association. So we had a bit of a tiki tour between the area, which is the headland between Auckland Bradley Park and the public boat ramp. So there's some concern from the association that seawall erosion is occurring. So just under the roadway, there's some erosion which is going to destabilize the road. So that's a big concern, and wanting to know if an inspector, road inspector, can go around and have a look at that area. So yeah, quite a important issue because it's the access into Charters Bay, Diamond Harbour.
So did he log a CSR?
I don't know if he has. He is wanting to come in to do a deputation to talk to it as well.
Public forum.
Yeah. So that would be,
Yeah.
Also, of course, extant issues of concerns in terms of safety measures around the peninsula as well. So that's another issue for Charters Bay. People walking on the side of the road, there's not enough area for people to be able to do that safely.
Yeah.
What else? I met with David Ferguson from the Auckland Bradley Park Board, doing some amazing future planning for the park to be sustainable. I just want to look into Tyrone that he's been able to support in terms of funding. Spring fairs coming up again. Traffic management costs are a big issue for the park as well. Road use. Summer's fast approaching. Have really noticed it over the last 2 weeks, an increase in people walking and running between Rākaihautū, Governor's Bay and Littleton. Again, that's been an ongoing issue, people not being able to do that safely. Inexplicably, I don't know what happened a few months ago. A few people have asked me, I sent a request through the council, the top rail between, I think it's been done through Littleton through Governor's Bay, was removed. So when that area gets really wet, it's quite boggy. People can't use that, what there is of the path and walk on the road. So I'm not too sure what that was about. Again, just highlights the issues of people being able to use that area safely.
People been putting custom students requests on about that.
Yeah, I put something through, didn't hear back. The other issue I've noticed, especially in the last 2 weeks with good weather, is cyclists on the road. Riding 2 or more abreast, cars not being able to get past safely. I don't know if, I know this is going to be a bit of a contentious issue, if a bylaw could be put through that area for just having one cyclist. Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay then, and that brings me to another issue with the police. Again, this is my kind of pet peeve, boy races. And now motorcyclists for some reason through the weekend speeding. It's just become an ongoing issue. I put through many, I think I've got the world record on 105 reports to the police. Nothing's been done. Can we get the police along? Is it not, you know, an invitation to the police to provide regular reports on what's happening? Again, thinking about issues of graffiti. Kino seems to be a prolific tagger. Again, I think every week that the bus shelter in Rāpaki is painted, they're back again. I don't know if we can install security cameras or lighting, but I've noticed also on Peninsula Bay that they have tagged on private properties, also in Rāpaki Bay as well. Also, yes, and sorry, you reminded me also, Tyrone, safety concerns, exiting the tunnel, Littleton side. The second exit that goes into the tunnel towards Governor's Bay, I've noticed that happened to me a few times last week, trucks not slowing down, especially to give way to vehicles that are going through. Yeah, it's a bit of a safety issue. Sorry, I've got a few things.
That's fine.
What else? Also noticed recently, I don't know what it is, cars parking Britain Terrace, coming off Park Terrace, section of houses along there, blind corner as you come around from Rāpaki to Littleton, parking right on that blind corner. So cars either have to move into the other lane, coming towards them, or stop. Really dangerous on a blind corner.
Another
please.
Sorry, the lines team can be now too.
Yeah, I think there, from memory, there was some discussion around yellow lines being looked at for that area. I think that is possibly me. Yeah.
Question, those CSRs that you haven't heard back from, is that quite a few weeks?
Yeah, it is.
Because we can escalate though. Escalate?
Can escalate them.
Escalate it?
In the flow chart that we've given you on that, and the governance thing, addressing the SES team leaders. You just, and if you've got the number, escalate it through that email. And if that's still not satisfactory dealt with, it then gets escalated to the office of the CD. It's in the flow chart and just.
Okay. I think that's fine.
That's great. Thank you. Gillian?
Yes, so as Kathy briefly said, there was a meeting the other night, well, it was billed as a party actually, the Biz Buzz, with the Littleton Business Association. So Kathy and I both attended. And that was good to meet a few more business owners, and yeah, I'd say it was quite a successful event, so that was quite good. And also we heard what's going on at Naval Point, which is quite a few things as well, by the club that they're organising, along with that, the penguin thing we heard today, but yeah, various other things, so that was useful. And of course, there's the big Coast Guard building being built as we sit here, down that way too, so, and all the changes to the wreck ground, so that's all amazing to see. I think one thing that's coming up that we hasn't had much attention is we get the first cruise ship back on the 14th of October.
Yes.
And while things were good last summer, and I'm aware that there could be problems this year due to, as I understand it, like a lack of funding, ECAN not being able to provide the additional buses that they provided last year. So I'm not aware of, maybe ECAN are doing some things for that, but as far as we know, I know that isn't happening. So
we'd like to ask ECAN what their plans are for the summer. Yeah.
Yes.
How do we do that?
Or ask Christchurch New Zealand.
Yeah,
Christchurch New Zealand.
I would suggest.
For an update.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the ECAN funding is the ECAN funding. I mean, we have fewer buses, but we actually don't know whether that's going to.
because it'll come back to us.
Oh, we just need to be ahead of the curve. I absolutely agree. And you're right to raise it. And thank you. I was going to actually come back to that. Yep.
All right, so hear back from Christchurch NZ if we could, invite
Patrick O'Sullivan.
Patrick O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And other than that, yes, so I attended the local government conference too, and got quite a bit out of it. I was just looking at my notes actually, because that's kind of handy. And one of the talks in particular was from a person called Jess Berenson-Shaw, who's a researcher in Wellington, but she talked about framing. So just an example of, her, I guess my key message was that how you frame an issue affects then how it's received. And so that's something that's good to think about. And also just getting the information about how different community boards, not that we got a lot of detail, you couldn't go into that, but just being aware that there's a lot of different ways that community boards are arranged around the country, and whether they exist or not, or how many there are in different districts, it's all very different. So,
and the delegations they get.
Well, yes, we didn't know we'd get into that level. Yeah, but it's very true as well. Yeah, so that's all good, and that's probably about all, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gillian. Tyrone, if you want to finish up.
Thank you. Sorry, yeah, there were things and thank you, Gillian, for bringing up the cruise ship thing. That's again, you've heard, we just want to make sure. I feel confident that, that it's being looked at, that there are good people getting things lined up, but yeah, we just want to make sure that we hadn't had that confidence that things are going to go well, and there'll be an early test probably in October when the cruise ship turns up. But yeah, we don't want to drop the ball on that one. The other, just coming back to that godly key, Simeon key intersection thing again, and just thinking I think a number of years ago, maybe in the last term, community, we did talk about just safe passage for pedestrians from the west side of Littleton who may be walking to the school, and like that intersection is a weak point. There's no real safe crossing kind of there, or if I was a parent with a young school child walking to school, like I wouldn't really know what the most safe passage was for a child getting to the school, because we've done things like tidied up the site on where the mitre was, which was dangerous, and we've got crossing. So it's certainly got better, but it's not entirely perfect. So that would be part of the discussion around that Simeon Key, Godley Key intersection about safe crossing options there as well. Naval Point, there is opening day this Saturday as well, actually. Just saying, so at 4 o'clock, be there at B Square. And just finally, very important, Lynn spoke very well regarding the reserve in Pūro, and council have passed unanimously last week that that's going to go out to public consultation 2 months, which is a really good period of time. So that's really good, acknowledging that it is a complex issue, and you just want to get everyone to get as much information out there as we can. But that's obviously very important. That's on our radar. But just to say that it did pass through council unanimously without consent. So.
And also to note that there is some holding dates already been sent through to you about those hearing panels. We, prioritise those, please. Nothing's been confirmed. Oh, no, yes, it's got confirmed now. So those are holding dates. They may move, but just to be aware that they're there so that they don't get lost in your emails, like sometimes that they do. Put them on your calendar and have those dates prioritised, because we're obviously having a
We'll have received calendar appointments.
yeah, calendar appointments, thank you. Obviously having a, my brain is not braining. A quorum is very important for that, yeah.
I just want to make a comment on cruise ships. I mentioned there is a global movement and trend about anti-tourism protests going on around. I shared a report a while back. And in response to that, you shared that Russia changed their statement of intent, and there was no mention of cruise ship in that report. So maybe you want to follow up on that.
All right, I'm just noticing the time now. We've gone a wee bit over time. I'm thinking of staff and months and things like that. Unless there's anything else we need to cover, I think we're good. Shall we finish up? I just want to ask, because I'm always learning, here. Is it in here or is it in here?
In here?
Yeah. Where is the, yeah. Is it under here or under here? Under here.
So there's no map or two.
Okay, no, I was checking. I've just heard it a few different ways lately, so I was just checking. All right, let's finish with that. Thank you. Under here, under here, under here, here, wātia, here, mama, here. Te tino, te wāhi, te ara takata. Koe rā e wong, whakairia ake te kirona. Ke tina, hui, tāie. Good job. Thank you, everybody.